A deadly fall from one of the tallest roller coasters in the world.
Roller coaster accident at a California Six Flags.
Falling to her death while riding the Texas Giant roller coaster.
There have been over 2 Six Flags deaths every year since the year 2000 and countless more injuries, many of which have left horrified victims in their wake. Join us in uncovering the rising tragedies of Six Flags Amusement Park. Number 1. Fatal incident at Batman. Roller coasters are a massive attraction in the United States, with more than 700 of these thrilling rides operating across the country today. Theme parks all over America are constantly in competition, always trying to attract more thrill seekers by creating faster roller coasters, taller, have bigger loops, or offer the longest airtime. It's a never-ending race to break new records and offer the most exciting experiences. In early 1992, Six Flags created a huge buzz by announcing Batman, the ride, the world's first inverted roller coaster. Unlike traditional roller coasters, where the train sits on top of the track and riders sit with their feet on the floor, an inverted coaster has the train hanging from the track above, with riders' feet dangling below, standing 105 feet tall and reaching speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour. Batman. The ride opened in May of 1992 to great excitement. This ride was such a big hit that Six Flags decided to build clones of it at their other locations, spreading the excitement even further. In May of 1997, Six Flags Over Georgia in Atlanta proudly unveiled their version of Batman, the ride. However, this ride would later be the site of 2 eerily similar tragic accidents. On May 26, 2002, Samuel Guyton, a 58-year-old park employee, accidentally wandered into a restricted area beneath the ride. As the coaster zoomed overhead, a rider's leg struck Guyton in the head. He was rushed to the hospital, but sadly, he did not survive. The 14-year-old girl whose leg had hit him was also taken to the hospital with leg injuries, but was released later that night. Interestingly, another person was injured in this incident. A 21-year-old woman who was hit by the girl's flying shoe. She was treated at the park's first aid station and released shortly after. Number 2. Decapitation on the Batman roller coaster. In June of 2008, A'Zia LaShawn Ferguson, a 17-year-old visiting the park with his parents as part of a 40-person church group, experienced a tragic turn during what was supposed to be a joyful outing. Shortly before 2 p.m., A'Zia and his friend rode the Batman roller coaster. During the thrilling ride, the coaster's speed caused A'Zia's hat to fly off, landing on the ground below. Authorities confirmed that the roller coaster was operating at its maximum speed of 50 miles per hour when the teenager was hit. This information comes directly from the park's official website. Determined to retrieve the hat, A'Zia and his friend climbed over 2 6-foot-high fences and entered a restricted area beneath the Batman roller coaster, where a similar accident had occurred in 2002. While attempting to recover his hat, A'Zia tragically suffered a fate eerily similar to the previous incident. A rider's foot struck him as the coaster sped overhead, resulting in instant decapitation. Remarkably, the rider whose foot made contact with A'Zia was unharmed, and A'Zia's friend narrowly escaped injury. In response to the tragedy, and out of respect for the victim's family, park management closed the Batman ride for the remainder of the afternoon, reopening it the following morning. Number 3. Superman Tower of Power tragedy. Superman, Tower of Power, at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom, originally named Hellevator, debuted in 1995 as a pioneering Intamin second-generation freefall tower. Standing tall at 177 feet, it operated with a unique system using 3 cables connected to a carrier that held 4 passengers per ride vehicle. On a fateful afternoon of June 21, 2007, at 4:56 p.m., Superman Tower of Power was running smoothly. 3 girls, having just finished their first ride and noticing no queue, requested another go. The ride operator granted their request, and they settled into seats in Section 3 of the attraction. That day, 2 operators were on duty, one at the enable station and another at controls, both with clear views of Section 3. The enable operator checked the girls' restraints and signaled readiness. After receiving the go-ahead, the controls operator initiated the ride by pressing the dispatch buttons. As Section 3 ascended between 35 to 45 feet, a sudden loud bang startled both operators. They observed one of the 3 cables snapping, with most of it recoiling into the ride structure. A 135-foot section of cable dangled from the carrier, descending rapidly and striking all passengers in Section 3. It entangled around the feet of Caitlin Lassiter, seated farthest to the right. Allegations suggest that the enable operator instructed the controls operator to stop the ride. However, halting the ride via emergency stop cuts all power, which would have brought the car to an immediate stop. It appears that the controls operator either failed to notice or chose not to act promptly after the cable snapped. She eventually called the park's emergency line, seeking guidance. After a brief and confused exchange, she decided to activate the emergency stop, which shut down power to the ride just as or shortly before the carrier detached from the ride vehicle. After the roller coaster hit its usual magnetic brakes and came to a stop in its designated spot, a chilling scene unfolded. Caitlin sat frozen, her legs suspended in the air and her feet missing. Following the incident, the lay-sitters took legal action against the amusement park, alleging that they had not properly maintained the Superman Tower of Power ride and its equipment, thereby endangering the safety of riders. This attraction lifted passengers several stories high before dropping them at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour. Subsequently, the ride was dismantled. The amusement park refuted these claims in court documents, denying any responsibility. A trial was scheduled for early 2010. According to a Kentucky Department of Agriculture report, the accident was attributed to a defective cable and delayed response from an operator. The report indicated that with quicker action from the ride's operators, Caitlin would likely have sustained only minor injuries such as cuts and scrapes. Caitlin underwent multiple surgeries. While doctors successfully reattached her right foot, her left foot could not be saved, and part of her left leg had to be amputated. The case was resolved through a settlement with Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom, stating that the settlement would cover Caitlin's medical care for the rest of her life. Carolyn McLean, a spokeswoman for Kentucky Kingdom, confirmed that the details of the settlement were confidential. Number 4. Disaster at the Texas Giant. Located within Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington, the Texas Giant has a storied history dating back to its debut in 1990. Originally crafted entirely from wood by the Din Corporation, it quickly gained fame for its exhilarating ride and stood tall as one of the world's tallest and steepest wooden roller coasters of its time. In a transformative journey in 2010, the Texas Giant underwent a substantial renovation, evolving into a steel hybrid coaster while preserving some of its original wooden structure. This revamped hybrid coaster not only elevated its stature, reaching from 143 to 153 feet in height and extending its drop length from 137 to 147 feet, but it also intensified the thrill with a steeper drop angle of 79 degrees. On July 19, 2013, tragedy struck during what was supposed to be a joyful outing for Rosa Esparza and her family at Six Flags Over Texas. It was Rosa's first visit to the park, and with her teenage son and daughter by her side, they eagerly boarded the Texas Giant roller coaster to cap off their day. As they settled into their seats, there was a distressing problem with Rosa's safety restraint. Witnesses noticed that despite efforts from park staff, her restraint seemed improperly secured, sparking concerns about her safety for the upcoming ride. Despite these concerns, the ride operators signaled that everything was okay, and the coaster descended. Within moments, disaster struck. Seated in the third row, Rosa was ejected from her seat as the coaster plunged down its first steep hill. She fell approximately 75 feet, hitting a metal support beam before landing on the metal roof of the honky-tonk tunnel below. The horror of the situation was evident, especially for Rosa's children, who witnessed their mother's fall. They were forced to complete the ride, with Rosa's son urgently seeking help as soon as it ended. Park employees, now in a state of panic, prevented him from reaching the track. Emergency services rushed to the scene, evacuating others from the ride area. Firefighters spent an agonizing hour searching for Rosa's body, eventually finding her nearly severed atop the tunnel roof. The report grimly stated the deceased person's body was partially entangled around a support beam. By the time they got to her, Rosa had already passed away. Following the tragic incident, the Texas Giant was immediately closed, and an investigation commenced to determine the cause of this devastating accident. Police officers interviewed 17 witnesses, and most of them claimed that Rosa's safety restraints were not working properly. Six Flags disputed this, stating that the ride uses an advanced hydraulic computerized restraint system known for its silent operation, free from any clicking noises. Once securely locked, the lap bar restraint can only be released by a ride operator using the control system. This release mechanism operates exclusively within the loading station where power is available. Several experts confirmed that the safety mechanism didn't malfunction unexpectedly. An investigation revealed frequent failures in the sensors. Six Flags pointed fingers at the German manufacturer, Gerstlauer, for this issue. On the other hand, Gerstlauer countered, blaming Six Flags. They argued that ride operators should have halted the ride and claimed the employees lacked adequate training, along with alleging improper maintenance of the ride. Police, however, disputed these claims, asserting that the ride underwent regular maintenance checks and no mechanical faults were ever detected. Rosa's family took legal action against Six Flags and Gerstlauer by filing a lawsuit. Six Flags and Gerstlauer Amusement Rides of Germany reached an agreement with Rosie Esparza's family. The family had sought damages exceeding $1 million, although the details of the settlement were not disclosed, according to a lawyer representing the Esparza family. However, attorneys Frank Branson and Garrett Chambers, speaking on behalf of the family, stated jointly that the Esparza family is satisfied with the settlement and appreciates the condolences extended by Six Flags and Gerstlauer. Number 5. Calamity at the Haunted Castle. On a fateful May day in 1984, the Haunted Castle, an eerie attraction at Six Flags Great Adventure Amusement Park in Jackson Township, New Jersey, was bustling with excited guests eager to explore its spooky corridors and experience chilling special effects with actors in costume. Little did they know, their quest for thrills would soon become a harrowing fight for survival. The Haunted Castle was crafted from 16 interconnected truck trailers, forming a symmetrical labyrinth of narrow, dimly lit pathways. When visitor numbers were low, only one side was open, but during peak times, both sides operated. A central trailer served as a hub, doubling as a control room and a dressing area for the actors. On that fateful evening of May 11th, only one side of the haunted castle was accessible, and guests were steadily streaming through. Yet, just before 6:30 p.m., a small fire broke out. In moments, it escalated into an uncontrollable inferno. The aluminum trailers, filled with highly combustible materials like plywood partitions, cloth and paper coverings, wooden and foam props, and foam crash pads, fueled the blaze's rapid advance. About 30 people were inside when the fire ignited. The combination of flames, smoke, and the maze-like layout made evacuation extremely challenging. One survivor recalled stumbling, tripping, and rebounding off walls in a desperate attempt to escape. Initially, he mistook the fire and smoke for part of the attraction's theatrics. Fire and rescue teams responded swiftly, but the intensity of the blaze posed significant challenges. By the time they contained it, the affected side of the haunted castle lay devastated. Initially, it was believed that everyone had been evacuated safely, but tragically, 8 bodies were discovered amidst the ruins. In a narrow corridor, they found most victims severely burned, initially mistaken for charred mannequins. These young souls, aged between 15 and 18, had come to Six Flags Great Adventure that day, seeking joy and a break from everyday routines. Upon discovering the tragedy, the park swiftly closed its gates as investigators swarmed the scene, eager to unravel the chain of events leading to such a catastrophic disaster. As details emerged, tension mounted, and everyone awaited answers with bated breath. It soon came to light that the fire had started when a teenage boy, lost in the dark passages of the haunted castle, decided to use his cigarette lighter to find his way. This seemingly innocent act ignited a piece of exposed foam, sparking a blaze that raced through the attraction. While using an open flame in such close quarters was reckless, investigators uncovered oversights and failures by both park management and state inspection agencies that contributed to the tragedy. They were faulted for allowing the haunted castle to operate without essential safety systems in place, despite recommendations from fire safety experts. The attraction lacked critical safety features like sprinkler systems and functional smoke alarms, which could have contained the fire before it spread. The haunted castle was classified as temporary, exempting it from these requirements, but it had been in operation for nearly 5 years, pushing the limits of what constituted temporary. Further scrutiny revealed numerous maintenance issues. Emergency exit lights were often broken or missing bulbs, and the foam padding where the fire began was exposed and torn instead of properly sealed. Shift managers had repeatedly raised concerns about guests using matches and lighters inside the attraction, but these warnings went unheeded by senior management. The neglect was so pronounced that in 1983, employees staged a walkout to protest the dangerous state of the haunted castle. Despite the history of poor maintenance and lacking safety measures, both the park and its parent company were absolved of any wrongdoing. Instead, jurors attributed the responsibility to Jackson Township officials for permitting the haunted castle to operate without meeting adequate fire safety standards. Despite the park complying with the regulations it was legally obligated to follow. The aftermath saw 8 civil lawsuits filed against the park, with 7 settling out of court for $2.5 million each. The final lawsuit proceeded to trial, resulting in a considerably smaller settlement for the affected family. Following the tragedy, New Jersey significantly revised its fire safety codes, particularly for structures intended to disorient visitors. The updated regulations mandated these structures to include proper fire detection systems, automatic lighting activation during alarms, and subdued or clear sound effects to prevent confusion. Number 6. Mishap on Ride of Steel. On Friday, July 8, 2011, Ride of Steel at Six Flags, Darien Lake was running as usual. A guest, using a wheelchair and assisted by a family member, entered the red train through the exit. They were seated in row 11, while the rest of the train filled up with riders from the standby line. Ride operators carefully checked all T-bar style restraints and seat belts before dispatching the train from the station. As the ride ascended its towering 208-foot lift hill and plunged down its first drop, everything seemed routine. However, halfway through the ride, as the train crested the third hill and passengers felt the weightlessness of negative G-forces, tragedy struck. The rider in row 11 was ejected from the train, falling to the ground below and tragically losing their life upon impact. Despite this incident, the red train completed its journey back to the station, where a fully loaded blue train had just departed. Upon the red train's arrival, riders quickly informed operators of what had occurred. The ride was promptly cycled empty, and an investigation by the New York Department of Labor commenced. This, through investigation, scrutinized every aspect of the incident, from how the ride operated to its maintenance protocols, its design, and the specific programs in place at Darien Lake for guests with alternate access needs. Initially, investigators focused on the ride's maintenance, examining the lap bars on both the red and blue trains. They found no mechanical failures. The ride had been diligently maintained according to manufacturer guidelines and passed third-party inspections without issue. Moving forward, they reviewed the ride's design itself, finding no inherent flaws, despite prior incidents in 1999 and 2004 involving rider ejections. Modifications, including the addition of seat belts for larger riders, had been implemented to enhance safety measures. Attention then turned to Darien Lake's procedures for alternate access and the operational practices of ride operators. The ejected rider, a military veteran with significant physical limitations, had unfortunately been deemed unfit to safely ride any roller coaster at Darien Lake due to their specific condition. Darien Lake's 2011 website provided basic information regarding access for guests with disabilities, highlighting that wheelchairs were incompatible with rides and that some queues were inaccessible for those with mobility challenges. The park advised affected guests to use designated exits or alternate entrances marked with signs. Detailed information was available in an Americans with Disabilities Act brochure at ride locations and guest relations. Following scrutiny, audits confirmed that these resources adequately informed guests about ride accessibility and restrictions, including clear warnings that riders with above-knee amputations should refrain from boarding Ride of Steel. However, the system relied heavily on riders reading warnings and operators understanding ride restrictions, which allowed room for error, contributing to this tragic accident. Number 7. Dropped at the Drop Tower. On a warm and sunny afternoon on August 22, 1999, 12-year-old Joshua, his mother Tammy, 2 friends, and 2 other children embarked on a visit to Paramount, Great America, now operated by Six Flags Corporation. This renowned park, which opened its gates on May 20, 1976, offers over 60 thrilling rides, numerous restaurants, and an exhilarating water park. Among its attractions stands the Drop Tower, once named Drop Zone Stunt Tower, inspired by the action-packed Paramount film Drop Zone. This ride plunges passengers from a dizzying height of 224 feet in a mere 4 seconds, hurtling at speeds nearing 60 miles per hour, all without the security of a safety belt, relying solely on head and shoulder restraints. Joshua and his companions had been enjoying their day at the park when, around 3:20 p.m., they decided to experience the Drop Tower. Due to some cars being out of commission, Joshua found himself riding with a family friend and 2 younger children, unable to sit with his mother as planned. Before the ride could commence, an unexpected error message flashed across one of the operator's screens, prompting an abrupt shutdown for the remainder of the day, just after Joshua's group had boarded as the last riders. As the tower ascended to its lofty peak, a tense countdown began. However, tragedy struck during the descent. Joshua was violently ejected from his seat, plummeting headfirst to the ground below. Tammy, watching from below, witnessed the horrifying event unfold helplessly. Joshua's impact with the concrete occurred at a staggering speed of 62 miles per hour, resulting in instantaneous fatality upon contact. Following the incident, an immediate investigation was launched. Witness testimonies suggested potential oversights in Joshua's harness inspection before the ride commenced, though conflicting reports arose regarding the thoroughness of these safety checks. Notably, the ride operators were notably young, including a 14-year-old volunteer who was beneath the required age limit for such responsibilities. Despite extensive scrutiny and inquiries into the incident, the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office ultimately concluded that Paramount Great America bore no criminal liability. Safety experts and investigators confirmed that Joshua's harness had indeed been secured throughout the ride, and the mechanical integrity of the drop tower itself remained intact. Nonetheless, the exact cause behind Joshua's tragic accident remains shrouded in uncertainty, leaving a lingering sense of loss and unanswered questions for his grieving family and the broader community. After the accident, the park immediately enhanced safety measures by adding an extra strap to the harness system, ensuring such incidents could never occur again. They also made a heartfelt donation in Joshua's honor. Joshua was laid to rest in Mission City Memorial Park in Santa Clara, California. Number 8. Tragedy at the Skyway. On July 26, 1978, tragedy struck when a cable car on the Skyway attraction suddenly plunged approximately 75 feet to the ground. The fall resulted in the tragic deaths of 3 occupants, 2 young girls and their uncle, and left another young girl severely injured. The incident forced park officials to immediately shut down the ride, leaving numerous riders stranded in 16 other cable cars. The scene quickly drew a response from firefighters across 12 departments, who arrived with a cherry picker to rescue those trapped in the highest cars. The cable car plummeted as it reached the attraction's first large support tower. A sudden shift in a steel support beam caused the car to slip off the cable completely. Remarkably, the cable itself remained intact, potentially preventing even more casualties. Following the incident, the park's public relations manager assured the public that all rides and attractions underwent daily safety inspections. No issues had been identified with the Skyway on the day of the tragic accident. After the tragic incident, a lawsuit seeking $4.5 million in damages was filed on behalf of the surviving rider. The lawsuit claims that the ride was in a dangerously defective condition. An investigation conducted after the fatal fall found that the failure of bushings in the support beam was responsible for the tragic sequence of events leading to the accident. Number 10. Bonsai Pipeline Catastrophe. Six Flags, Hurricane Harbor. Concord, a seasonal water park nestled in Concord, California, offers a thrilling escape during the warmer months. Originally developed and operated by Premier Parks, now Six Flags, it has become a favorite destination for water enthusiasts. On a sunny afternoon, around 3:30 p.m. on June 2, 1997, a group of senior students from Napa High School embarked on their end-of-year trip to Waterworld. This trip had become a tradition, a celebratory capstone to their school year. Among them was Alinda Franco, initially hesitant but drawn in by the laughter and excitement of her peers. Their adventure took a dramatic turn at the Bonsai Pipeline, one of the park's tallest slides. The seniors, known for their mischievous streak, planned a daring feat: to clog the slide with as many students as possible. Despite warnings from lifeguards and the slide's designated capacity for one person at a time, they proceeded with their plan, waiting until the end of the day to avoid detection. As they gathered at the park's towering 40-foot tower, anticipation and nervous excitement filled the air. The plan was simple yet risky. Students would pile onto the slide, holding themselves in place until the signal to release and slide down together, aiming to create a memorable end to their university life. However, what started as a thrill-seeking adventure quickly turned tragic. Midway down the slide, under the strain of excess weight, the structure gave way with a deafening crack of breaking metal and fiberglass. Witnesses described the horrifying sight of the slide collapsing, sending students plummeting 30 feet to the ground below. It was chaos as bodies fell through the air, some managing to hold on as parts of the slide seemed to vanish like a trapdoor. Out of the 33 students who fell, tragically, one did not survive. Quimby Galati, an 18-year-old student, struck her head on the concrete during the fall, succumbing to her injuries on the way to the hospital. After the incident, the entire park shut down. A thorough investigation followed, led by the park's management, city inspectors, and police. Their mission: to uncover the reason behind the catastrophic collapse of the slide. Specialists meticulously examined the slide, pinpointing the failure of the first support tower beyond the platform. They identified a critical weak point: a metal flange connection, unable to bear the weight of the teenagers. The slide's original design capacity was set at 1,550 pounds. Shockingly, during the incident, it buckled under an estimated load of 6,000 pounds. Under this overwhelming strain, the remaining bolts securing the fiberglass tube gave way one by one, akin to a zipper being pulled apart. The aftermath reverberated through the community, leaving it in mourning. Flags flew at half-mast outside Napa High School in memory of Quimby Galati, a solemn reminder of the tragic events that unfolded. Which of these incidents do you consider most tragic? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.